Welcome back to Midlife Unfiltered. I'm Donna. This is my co-host, Nick.
Welcome in, everybody. Today we're sitting down with Jessica Danel. She is an author, a mom of three. She has been married for 25 years. She's a former child care entrepreneur, multi-million-dollar preschool business who built it from the ground up. She's known for her humor, her storytelling, and now she brings a heartfelt perspective on motherhood, marriage, and chasing dreams. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello.
Hi, Jessica. Welcome in.
Hello.
Welcome in.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. We're so excited to hear everything you have to say.
I got a lot to say. Oh, I forgot to ask you, how long can this go? Because I can talk. Let's just get it out there right now.
We'll just play it by ear.
Okay.
Perfect.
Because I'm a chit chatter.
We're all
okay. So let's get into a little bit about me. I do have three kids. One is I'm a stepmom, so she's my stepdaughter. Met her dad when she was 3, so been part of her life. She's 33 now, so for 30 years.
Yeah.
I've been married now. We just had our 26th anniversary, so we've been married 26 years.
Congratulations.
Together 29 altogether. I know it's been 29 years together. I always count those 3 years. When you're dating, you got to count those in your relationship because those are the hardest, actually.
Sure.
It's like you're going to get to the point or not. I had to actually tell my husband, I'm like, shit or get off the pot. Because if we're not going to get married, I'm moving on. Because after 3 years, it's like, haven't you tested me out a little, test drove me enough? Like what's going on? So that's how that worked out. And, but I mean, I told you, off camera, I was telling you, I hold the rights to the remote control in the house. And that's just kind of like how it's been our whole marriage. So
good for you. I love that.
I know. Woman power. Yeah. So then I have a 25-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. And they too are both still living at home. That's a lot. And so I currently have I'm currently working. So I work in broadcast media and I've got that going on. And then I wrote a book about my crazy life, a bucket list from a redneck girl that we're probably going to discuss, and ensued the podcast because I wanted to tell people about my book, but it took on a life of its own. But the podcast is Just Saying with Jessica Danel. And I started that because I wanted to tell people about my podcast about my book. And then I just started getting on all these different people and these different storylines and about families and relationships and different books. And it's so much fun. I'm having a blast getting to know people. And then I get to go on podcasts like this, which is great. And then I get to meet people and tell people about my crazy life and how messed up it was and how to come out on top. That's always the great part, that resilient thing that people like to talk about a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
our motto is pretty much, if our podcast can reach one person and it affect that person or help that person, then we've done our job. So you telling your story, reaching out to a whole different group and a whole different audience,
right.
Hopefully you touch someone.
I think people want to be a fly on the wall too. I think they want to hear a conversation with a couple people or two different people. I've never done a podcast with 2 hosts before. So this is actually, so sorry if I step on all your words. I'm not used to it.
That's fine.
You're all good.
We're easy.
But I think they want to be a fly on the wall and hear conversations and the chit chat and all that. And I like it when it can just be a conversation and it's not so robotic. Yes. In the beginning of my podcast, I was a robot because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I was looking at the thing, looking at the questions, going and trying to look at the camera at the same time. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was so embarrassing. But they always say, and I heard this by, I think his name was Pat Flynn. He said they have to cringe before they'll binge. And so you got to watch the cringy ones before you get to the good stuff.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And so you just keep going. Don't stop. That's my motto in life too. Just work hard. Keep going, don't stop, and eventually you'll get there.
That's what we want our podcast to be about. It's like just sitting on the couch and with your girlfriends or your boyfriends or wherever, just chilling out, having a conversation. We don't want it to be get the notebook out, read all the notes. I mean, obviously we have notes, but just make it relax and have fun. Let it just flow, as we say.
I still try to ask questions because sometimes I don't know where they're like. If I've had guests that are like way over my head, like, dude, you are freaking smart. And I don't even know, I don't want to come off as being this dumb blonde. And I'm like, how can I ask a really thoughtful question? And so I use AI sometimes to help me put my questions together and I will use them. I will use them as a tool in case I have an blonde moment and I can't think of something smart to say. or if what they're saying, I just have no clue what they're really talking about. I try to like unpack it though. I'm like, what are you really? I don't really know what you mean. Like spell it out a little bit more. We've had
a few of those.
This one guy. He's talking about he created a new thing, like science thing or something. And so I was like, I was doing my very best to follow along, but it was hard. I mean, I am educated. I do have a degree, but sometimes when you're getting into the weeds, I get lost very easily. So
yeah,
I don't know. I just got off on a tangent talking about that. Sorry.
You're all good. Well, why don't you tell everybody about who you are, how you got into writing your book, being a mom. I know you mentioned that you have a daughter with special needs, I believe. So why don't we, learn how you got into all of that?
1, 2, 3, all of
Okay.
My oldest has attention deficit and she's also like depressive. And my son too, he's got a list of things, but he has Asperger's and massive depressive disorder and depression. I can't say the word. And he's like an explosive disorder where he gets angry for like the littlest things. I'm like, don't hit me. But he wouldn't. But I'm just saying, like, that's what you feel like when a 25-year-old man is like yelling at you.
Yep.
And so, and then my daughter, which we'll talk about, but she was born with a heart condition and needed open heart surgery at 5 months. And then after all that, we found out that she had cerebral palsy. And then we found out there's a lot of things that went with that. Like she has AFRID, which is considered, it's called let's see, what is it called? AFRID, avoidance food restrictive intake disorder. That's what it's called.
Oh my goodness.
So she will not eat anything that has texture in it. So she only eats like pudding, soup, mashed potatoes, applesauce. That's like the only consistency she'll take. And it's got to be mushy. It can't be lumps. It's got to be like, pureed kind of. So she's still to this day, she's 16. She won't eat anything else. Not a cookie, not a French fry. I mean, when I say nothing, not even a cracker, nothing. Chocolate, she'll let it melt in her mouth. She won't chomp it. She'll let it melt in her mouth. And so then because of that, then she has to wear pull-ups because her number 2 comes out a little bit different than ours. And so it's a hot, we're trying to wear, she's 16 with pull-ups. It's like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And expensive. And then, she also, lots of protein drinks. So you have to buy protein drinks and they're not cheap either.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that going on. And then, we just had her chromosomes checked, and we did this when she was younger, but the science wasn't there yet. And I guess we just had her recheck just in case. And sure as shit, she came up with a positive for what people can look it up. It's called 16p.11.2. Weirdly, but it's true. I'm her mom, so I know the whole thing. But what it is it's a chromosomal disorder, and she's got what they say is like a smattering of different things here and there, here and there. So she doesn't have the full-on issue with the 16p. It's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so with that new diagnosis, autism is part of it. And they diagnosed her with autism level 1. And that all came out in the last year. So it's like all the things I was going through were probably the reason why is the 16p is the reason why she went through all these other things that nobody could explain why. And now we know why. Had I known though back then that she had this, it's possible that who knows, maybe she would have gotten better
Different
care,
therapies.
but I just don't think so. I mean, we've done the best that anybody probably could to help her. She has heart problem that will persist her whole life. So she had one surgery at 5 months and she's due for another one. Last year, they thought for sure she was going to have one. And then they said, nope, she's all clear for this year. Let's bring her back. And then every year she has to get cleared, MRIs and all this stuff. And for her, she has to be put to sleep for the MRIs because she can't do it. And so it's a big thing. And the children's hospital and all the insurance coverages, and it's a hot mess. And I'm just rambling, but I'm just thinking that there's so much now I need to start doing because we're coming back to the year again where she has to get rechecked. She has a tumor on her back that's growing that I couldn't get her into the right doctors. And so and the tumor, they said it doesn't look like it's anything. It just is growing. It's
right.
It's just there's so much going on. And I haven't even gotten to the real story. Let's get to the good stuff.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Yep.
So I wrote the story about my crazy life and I called it Bucket List from a redneck girl only because I come from a small farming town in Northern California. I know people always think about rednecks in Mississippi and Tennessee or whatnot, but California has them too. We're a farming community, farming, state. It's where you get a lot of your veggies. In fact, Bakersfield, where I live right now, is where you get all your carrots. If you look on your packages, it says made in Bakersfield. But where I grew up is north of Sacramento, and it's about 5 hours away from where I live right now, in a small farming town, and everybody's, working outside, working hard, rednecks from the sun. And that's basically where I came up from with the redneck part. And the bucket list part came because when I first started college, when I was younger, he's like, what do you want to be? And I'm like, I don't know, like nothing. I want to be a wife and a mother. All I really wanted to be was a wife and a mother.
Right.
And so it's like, well, I was really reaching for the stars on that one. And so he said, why don't you make a bucket list of things you want to do in your life and the things you want to accomplish? And if being a mom and a wife is one of them, then maybe you could start to take early childhood education so that you could better understand the kids that you're going to have. So I was like, okay, I'm all in. So that's what I did. I started taking those kind of classes. Also, I was a runner. So in college, I was running cross country for the college that I was in. I ran for 2 different colleges. I was thin and I was really fast. I could run long distance, but I was a fast runner too. And so that's kind of like what I did. But I wrote this story because I wanted my kids to know a little bit about mommy. Because, right now they're young and they don't care. They're not asking me about my life or what was it like and why do you do these things or how are you the way you are, right? They don't care to ask. And I'm sure it won't be until I'm pretty much gone when they want to know more about, like, they realize they really didn't know anything about me.
Sure.
They knew me as mom, past the mashed potatoes. They don't really care about like me. And so I thought, well, I want to have something in writing so they know my origin story, where I came from, all the bad choices I made. And where to bring me to today. And so after COVID, after I got my second job, I still was sitting here after having 2 jobs with a little bit of time on my hands, just kind of like where I'm doing right now, having time on my hands. And I sat down, I started to write my story, and I would just work on it during work. And at 4:00, I turned off my computer and I went to go start dinner. And it took me 2 months with just the little bit of time I had during the day, 5 days a week. And I wrote it. It took me 2 months. And because it just flowed out of me, I didn't realize that I had that. And it just came out. But then, of course, the rewrites and the edits and all that other took like forever, before I would let somebody like look at it. And so there was a point where I did decide to print them up and send them off to my friends and my mom because I wanted their opinion. And I took it to a place called PostNet. It's kind of like a Kinko's place where you go and you have it printed and then they'll ship it for you. So I went in and they said, okay, it'll take a couple days. So then I came back and the people behind the counter, they're looking around. She's like, I downloaded your book. And I'm like, what? And I go, it's got like all these spelling errors. I'm sure still it's probably not ready for consumption. I'm positive of that. And she's like, no, it's so good. And she says, and then like all the other ones says, I'm on chapter 5. Aww. And so all 3 people in there, and they were all different. One was a gentleman, a young boy, not boy, but young, like it could have been teens. Honestly, he was young. And one was a girl and one was an older lady. And they all 3 loved it. And I thought, if that's my demographics, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Like if they like it. And she's like, are you going to show
them right in?
Yeah. She goes, are you going to show your mom? And I go, well, one of these is for my mother. And she's like, oh my God, tell me come back and tell us what she thinks. Like, I'm like, cause in the very first page, I cuss at my mother. I told her to F off in the very first page. And that we can get to the story part of it all. But my mom and I don't know, my mom and I had a really bad relationship growing up. We're good friends now, like besties almost. But at the time, I didn't understand her and didn't pay attention to any of her pain. And it was all about me and all my pain and what was I going through and everything. I didn't feel loved. I mean, on the back of my book, it says, Marsha, if you understand what that means, then you'll appreciate this book. Because, I had I had an older sister, older brother, and a younger sister, and I was like the middle girl.
Yeah.
And the boy, of course, my brother can do no wrong. He was like the golden child. he walked into the room, they're like, like, here comes Joey Andrew, like, And so he was like, he could squash an angel and he'd be like, that stupid angel got in the way, anywho. So I always felt like I had that middle child. And I do think that my parents and my mom does admit that they treated me different. And they don't, she doesn't know why. And I think they were just trying to squash my spirit. That's really what they were trying to do. I actually have a chapter in the book. It's called The Belt, the Hand, or the Hanger. And that is because my dad would ask me how I wanted it. And he's not talking about a BLT. He wanted to know how I wanted my spanking. And I always said by the belt because my dad was 6'3" and a big dude. So his hand, he would hit me hard enough till my butt was the right shade of red, And so there was no spank count. It was just whatever he felt like. And then the hanger always left welts. And so that wasn't great. And the belt, sometimes he would flop it over the wrong way. And I would act like it hurt worse. I'm like, oh, that hurts so bad. Cry. And then he would, and this is with pants down, like not great. And so then he would, as I'm pulling on my pants, ask me, did I learn my lesson? Because life's nothing but lessons learned and all that pervy stuff. And so, in fact, I was actually spanked in the 7th grade by our principal, believe it or not.
Really?
Hell yeah. And he did make me pull my pants down, underwear on, thank God for small miracles. And he used a paddle and it had holes in it and it was shellacked and everything. Yeah.
That was allowed?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Wow. I didn't think that was okay. I did not. Okay.
Was it a Catholic school or private school or something?
I did go to a private school, but this was at a public school. It was like, I went to a private school I talk about this in the book too. And the chapter's called No Longer a Nun, because I used to go to a private school with nuns and they would smack me all the time on the face. I also say in my book in several different places, I just have a smackable face, I think, because people were hitting me all the time. I got hit by the nuns. I got hit by this lady in a bar one time. And this girl named Rosalie Fight, her last name was actually Fight. She came up to me in the 7th grade while I was in the grass and she kicked me in the face.
Goodness gracious.
So I always just say, I guess I just have a kickable face. I don't know.
Holy cow.
And the funny thing is like, if you rub people the wrong way, that's just the way it is. And obviously I talk a lot. I mask things with humor sometimes. And if I'm always happy, sometimes people that are not happy don't like it. Like, they're like, why is she so happy? And like, I'm going to go in and make that not true for a while, And that was the thing with Rosalie. She just wanted to hit me for no reason. She just didn't like me. And I wasn't even anywhere near her. I was like eating lunch, like really far away. She had to like walk super far to find me and just came over and kicked me in the face. I'm like, what the hell?
Wonderful. That maybe she was, obviously this was years ago, but I always think that people that are mad at people are happy is because they're suffering in some sort of way and they don't like it. Do you think maybe?
Yeah. So later on, I was not too long ago, I was having dinner with some old friends. I went to my old town for, I think, a funeral. And then we got together for dinner and we were talking about people and someone says, oh, that girl, Rosalie. And I go, yeah, she kicked me in the head, like in the face for no reason. And then they were like, they go, well, Jessica, she had a really hard time. I was like, I get it, but like, have a little sympathy for the girl that got smacked, and and they said you didn't know this about her butt, and then they went into some things, and I was like, okay. Had I known that, maybe she just thought that I had it all. Like, did she not know that I too was going through my own struggles, but I didn't have drug issues, which I didn't, or I didn't even smoke cigarettes. Like, I was not a goody, but I was like, I did the right things. Basically, I made good choices, However, so this is how my book starts off. My parents dropped me in a drug rehab when I was a high school senior. I was 16 years old and I had never done drugs. Not once, not even to this day have I ever done drugs. But my parents, they just thought I was a bad kid, even though I was cross-country basketball and track in high school. I was the school photographer. I was on the yearbook committee. I wrote for the school newspaper, and I was an officer. Like, I was not vice president, but I was rally commissioner. Like, all of these, and I hung out with good kids, like all the sporty kids, and I was a joiner in all the, Dare and Friday Night Lights, against drinking and driving and all that, all the things that you would do in the 90s, right? And no, they thought I was a bad kid and put me in a drug rehab.
Really?
And they drop you off and they leave. Okay, so then you're here, you have to stay the night in a detox room with another girl that's coming off of acid.
Oh.
And
my
so,
days.
and I'm crying, writing a poem. I'm like, why are they dropping me here? And I'm writing a poem as I'm crying myself to sleep. And, I was only 16, like barely 16 actually. And when the test results came back 4 days later, when they came back and said that she's not on drugs. And then they said, okay, well, she can come home then. And they're like, you can leave her here for 30 days so she can work on her attitude. I don't have an attitude. So,
my goodness gracious.
So that's how the story starts. And that is why the guy at the Post-it store said, are you gonna, cause I told my mom when they dropped me off at this place and dropped me off in my room to get the F out, that if this is my new home, she's not welcome. And so that is how I started the book. And I wanted them to know, like, this is going to be a roller coaster ride. This is my life, woo, woo.
Yeah. Welcome.
And so, and then I was teased. I have a lazy eye, kind of like Forrest Whitaker, how he kind of looks off to the side, his eyes are unshapely. That's what I look like when I was younger. And so my mom and dad got me some surgeries, one that went awfully bad. So then the guy that created my type of surgery came out of retirement to do my surgery for free, the second one, because the first guys messed it up.
Wow.
So I got to do this. Anyways, I was called Popeye, because I was, which sucked because that was like my favorite cartoon. And so I was like called Popeye. So I just embraced it in the book and I talked about it. And I talk about my surgeries, and there's some crazy things that happened. I didn't know all the things that my mom was going through at the time, but now that I wrote this book, it was like an aha moment. Like, yeah, my dad was a total douchebag. He treated my mom like crap. One instance, I'm going to tell you something that happened, and this should just frame how the whole book and how my dad was the whole time.
Right.
We were at the Sacramento airport, and this was back in the time when you can wait for your loved ones at the gate,
Okay.
because you're allowed to.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for him to come in from LA, and we were sitting, there was a bunch of tile in the hall or something, and we were sitting on a bench seat all together, and we got off and we were doing hopscotch, and saying, step on a crack, break your mama's back. You know how you do back in the day. That's what you do when you're like in the 80s. Okay. That's all the fun you had. You didn't have handheld things. Okay. We didn't have.
You just something to keep you busy.
Yeah. So we're, I have my brother who's a year and a half older than me. And I think I was, like 4 or 6 or something. 6. He was 8. And I think my sister must have been 10 or something, or we were all just under 10, I think, somewhere around there, all young. And we were saying, step on a crack, break your mama's back. Well, my mom, the God's honest truth, true story. My mom bends down to pick up my little sister, and she heard something, and she did break her back. Yeah. God's honest truth. Swear to God. She bent over to pick her up, and something happened, and she's like, she's like, oh my God, And so she sits down on the bench seat. She's like crying, like trying to hold it in, not to be like, like screaming. Mm-hmm. And then right then because she was picking him up because the thing was being called, my dad's gate and everything. And so she picked her up. And then she's like, come on, kids, we gotta go. And so she went over, and as soon as my dad got off the airplane, my mom goes, I think something happened to my back. Oh, like it hurts so bad I could barely breathe, And she was holding my sister on her hip, and he takes off his duffel bag, throws it on her other shoulder, and says, don't embarrass me in front of my coworkers. And
my God.
My days.
Right. And then he pushed, how when you pass somebody by, you shove it on, and almost jerked her forward, and like, what the F? And we're all like, hi, Daddy, we miss you. We miss you. And we're all hugging him. And like kids do, holding on his legs, making him look like he's loved. And all his coworkers are like, oh, duh. Mr. Andrew is because my last name was Andrew. Like, oh, Mr. Andrew must be loved, All the while, and then he made her carry the damn bag and my sister all the way downstairs, all the way to the parking lot, to the garage, to wherever it was that our car was parked.
Oh my God, that poor thing.
I know. So that's just kind of like,
wow.
And I talk about this in the book, kind of like one of the stories that I do remember it, and my mom went over it a little bit more because she reminds me of things, but I do remember that day. And I remember singing that, step on a crack, break your mama's back. And then it's just crazy, right? And so, but I don't know why, but it took until I wrote the book, till I realized like all the things that my mom basically endured. And then we learned out, I'm going to tell this as like a family secret, but I'll tell y'all. So when my dad passed away, my mom went into his study and, she was like gathering things and she noticed a bunch of Western Union slips in his drawer. And then she moved the mouse by accident and a girl appeared on the screen and it was some freaking chick from the Philippines and going, Bobby, where are you? Where are you, Bobby? And my mom's like, who's this? She's like, where's Bobby? La, la, la. My mom's like, he's dead. He died. And she's like, well, who's going to pay my rent? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he wasted all of their money. He had retired early or his work made him retire because they were restructuring and he was like 64 or something.
Right.
And my mom was still working.
So he had a side piece he was giving money to.
Yep.
Okay.
They took almost all their money, like all their savings, like bought her furniture, paid for her place to live, computers, all kinds of shit. Monthly
Did he pass
money.
unexpectedly? Is that how this woman didn't know?
Yeah. He had a hernia surgery and then like within a week he had died. We think it might have been a blood clot or something. We're not sure.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's other things I could tell you. We'll get to that too. There's a chapter. My dad, I used to think like even when I was younger, I thought it was my mom that would tell my dad stuff to get me in trouble. That's why my dad was punishing me all the time. And I talk about like the sounds of his, when my mom was like, just wait till your dad gets home, go to your room and wait. And I would talk about the jingling of his keys and all the things that I remember about like being punished and the feeling of all of that. And come to find out though, like, no, I went into drug rehab because my dad saw a pamphlet and said, yep, that's her. We're doing it. My mom had no say. And also, by the way, I give my parents a little bit of a pass when it comes to that because they didn't have computers, chat groups, support groups, anybody to help them. Who do you go to? Your mother who will say, those kids are probably on drugs, like who is she going to go to? So I kind of give her a pass on that now, and also, I think parents are better safe than sorry in any way. And if it was my kid, I probably would have done the same damn thing. But my only behavior that they said the reason why they did put me in a drug rehab was I was irritable.
Oh.
And I was like, isn't that all teens? Like
I just say, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you get the period, you're going to get irritable. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Like, give me a break. I was doing all the things. I was still getting good grades. I didn't smoke. Didn't paint my fingernails black. I didn't do all the things. Okay. I wasn't wearing, crazy things. I actually loved high school. I thought it was the best time of my life.
Right.
And even now when we talk with my friends, we're like, man, oh my God, high school was so much fun. We had just a great time with each other. And so when our high school had one of the first high school shootings in America, it really rocked us hard. So I graduated in 1991. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just graduated. My little sister was still going to school there. She was a freshman. And I was working at a preschool center and I get out of the preschool and I'm only 20 minutes away. And they said there's a gunman. They didn't call him active shooter or any of that type of stuff at that time. They didn't coin that phrase until later. But it was a gunman was at our school. And I hopped in the car and I drove as fast as I could. And when I got to the school, everybody was outside crying. Yeah. And I was like, where's my sister? Because we know everybody. We're so close. The town is so small. Everybody, they're like, oh, here comes Jessica. Like they all know who I am. And I'm like, where's my sister? Where's my sister? And I'm Happy. This one of my friends named Happy. She comes up to me and she gives me a hug. She's like, she's okay. Your mom had to pick her up and took her to the hospital. And she goes, I think she fainted or something. I was like, okay. So I ended up going home to find out because back then we didn't have cell phones. So I was like, what hospital? Where am I going? So I went home first and my sister was home. Basically, she took my sister to our Dr. Toller, which I talk about in my book a lot. We have this one doctor that we did everything with. The one doctor, your family doctor.
Yep.
Dr.
We all
Toller.
had them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Dr. Toller said she's fine. She's just in shock. Okay. So Hillary got out, but we all decided, we sat there and we're like, let's go help our community however we can. So my mom and my sister were going to go to the place where all the parents were going to be hanging out waiting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I went back to the school. But before I did, I went to KFC and I got like 10 buckets of chicken donated because of course I didn't have any money. I went around my neighborhood and I got 10 blankets that I could scrounge from everybody. I said, I'm not going to bring them back. And I went out to the front of the school where it was, because it's May and Northern California, it gets a little chilly. And it was already starting to be about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And I went and I gave chicken and blankets to everybody because they were all waiting outside.
Yeah.
And when I got there, they were crying. And the names of the 4 first killed were coming out. And it just hit us. Like right now, it's giving me chills because of the moment I'm thinking of. And we all just started to bawl. He had killed. Now I say he because we all know who he was. He was a former student, went to school with us all. And I'll tell him the name, but he's on death row, but there's really no death row in California. Mm-hmm. But his name is Eric Houston. And he came into our school with wanting to kill Robert Brenz, because Mr. Brenz didn't pass him in civics. And so basically his life had been falling apart. Yeah, civics, which I don't even think they do anymore.
Yeah.
No. Which they should, by the way, just saying. And so his life was falling apart. He's 20 now, and his girlfriend left him. It was like a big sad story, a big country sad story where his his whole life was falling apart because he didn't graduate high school, And so, because he didn't get to walk with his friends in high school, and he didn't get a degree because he didn't pass civics by 1 point. So he comes back, he kills Mr. Brenz, and he kills 4 others. And there was one of my friends really close to Jason White. He killed him, but he went into this one classroom and put the gun up to this girl's head and was about to pull the trigger. And this guy comes up and he pushes the girl out of the way, saving her life, but taking the full blunt of the blow to the head. So he like a hero, like this sophomore hero, just crazy.
Oh my goodness.
And he laid on the floor dying for half an hour in front of his friends. And then the guy corrals 80 kids that he could upstairs and barricades them in there and tells the kids, if you go downstairs, I want you to go downstairs and get somebody hiding. And if you don't come back, I'm going to shoot one of your friends. And so this 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they had to go downstairs and either do one thing, run, tell the person he can't see you, you can get out of here, or beg them to come back, or come back and say, I couldn't find anybody. So they all had to make those choices. A few, I think, left and some came back. But eventually nobody else was killed. Once he had them all upstairs, there was more negotiating than anything. I think they got fed pizza or something, but there was negotiation where he was releasing some at a time, and then eventually he just surrendered and they took him into custody. But they did make a movie on this. It didn't get a lot of notoriety, not the movie, but the shooting at the time, because in LA, the Rodney King verdict was given, and on the April 29th, and then there was rioting.
My birthday.
Really? And then the next day was rioting. And then the next day was the shooting. So it took like back seat to a lot of the news that was happening at the time. And the news cycle back in 92 was not like it was
today.
Now. Totally different. And so, but it did get a movie made. You can still watch it, I believe, on Amazon Prime. And it's called Target of Rage.
Target of Rage.
Mm-hmm. And there's another title it had. I don't know why. I think it may be past ownership, but The Siege at Johnson High. Now, my high school was called Lyndhurst High School, Lyndhurst.
Okay.
But the name of the story in the movie is called The Siege at Johnson High.
So they kind of changed the name out of respect for the students. That makes sense. For the victims. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So Henry Winkler, the Fonzie was in that movie.
Yes.
And those of you who are younger, in Scream, he was the principal that got hung from the football field in Scream 1. I don't know. A lot of these people, millennials, might know that more than they would know Fonzie. I don't know if they know Happy Days, but Henry Winkler, Freddie Prinze Jr., big 90s star.
Yeah.
And all of us oldies would know Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoon.
Yep. Yeah.
I think Ricky was the bad guy in this scenario, but. So I've only watched the movie once myself. It's very hard to watch when you
imagine.
It's just like really hard. But during this time, my mom was actually sitting with Beeman's mom. And so my sister was best friends with Beeman's cousin. So the cousin was sitting there with my sister. My mom was sitting there with my sister with somebody they know because they're PTAs and all, we're very close. Like I said, the town is so close. And everybody was approaching the tables, telling the parents about what was happening. And they approached my mom's table different. And they said, we need you to please come with us. And the mother said, will you come with me? To ask my mother and my sister. And my mom's like, I'll definitely come with you to hold your hand and I'm getting chills just thinking about all that. And then they had to, I don't know why I'm going to start to cry. And then they had to tell her that, her son didn't make it. So it's just really, really, it's just hard. And so in the book, I just go through all of what I basically said. I basically just gave you a chapter, but I tell you all in the book and where I was and how it affected everybody. And if you could see, it still affects us today.
Yeah,
I mean, we constantly are trying to commemorate it by Facebook and telling, everybody that like, this is what's going on. And I even wrote a song on using AI, and I put a video out last May. And everybody was just, thousands of people were just like, oh my God, I'm crying. This was it. This is the song we needed. And so we now have a song for it, and we play it every year. Hopefully every year. Next year, hopefully. That. This is a subject that we bring up, like school shootings and signs to look for. And if you think there's a kid struggling and need and that type of thing, So these are the type of things that are in my book that I wanted to bring to the stage on my podcast. But I'm not limited to just these type of stories. I want to talk about all stories that affect kids and raising kids and what it means to raise children with special needs and all that part. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of, it's kind of like what are we going to have this year? Like throw it on the dartboard. Like, I don't know. Today we're going to talk about this. It just could be anything. I'm not
They're
really
all topics that are very important to everyone, especially people that have children.
Yeah, they're good. They're good topics. I know that my kids and their schools have been not locked down. They've had hold-ins because they've been given information about a potential weapon or something where they have to take those things seriously. And Donna knows the story. Like I've mentioned, like my older daughter, when she was in middle school, she was bullied a lot. And one time I think it was a guidance counselor, I said, I'm going to say this in the nicest way, but I'm going to be very blunt with you. And he's like, okay. And I said, I'm not going to stand first in line when when a shooter ends up being dead because they bullied the wrong person. And I said, because if it's not taken care of now, people don't deal with the bully. I was like, you're going to have a problem. And I said, because he's always bullied. And I was like, I'm not saying that my kid's going to do this, but I was like, that person that is being mean to my daughter or anybody in general is going to set off the wrong person. They're going to end up dead. And I was like, I'm not going to stand in line to give my sympathy. Yes, I'll be sad because it is a human life. I get it. But you have to deal with it. And
here's the thing.
Yes.
It's hard when you have, here's the thing with me. Mm-hmm. I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
School shootings are hard.
Yes.
And then I have a son who has an explosive disorder. Right. And he was bullied a lot.
Yeah.
Sure. And I was, as a mother, worried that my own child could be somebody that might want to go do that because he doesn't think his life is worth anything. Even now, he sometimes will say, I don't even know why I'm living. It's like, I don't even care. Like he doesn't think like living is important. Yeah. And so it's really hard. And so as a parent, it's really hard to navigate that. What do you do? So when my son asked me as a junior if he could test out of high school, I thought, what are my odds? Like he could do something terrible and get himself into real big trouble or hurt somebody, or he comes home and starts college early. And so if he could test out, I was going to let him do it. And he tested out easily. I was just funny. I was looking through all of his grades just yesterday, all A's and B's. Like the kid was freaking smart. So of course he tested out no problem. And then he did start school the next semester in college. He started college a little early, but it took me, he did do a little bit of college and then he'd stop a little bit and stop, a little bit and stop. And he's 25 now. And he was able to get a job. Finally, after 3 months of hard labor in the workforce, he said, I need to go back to school. He's like, I need to use my brain. He goes, I don't want to. So he's starting to, the revving up the life thing is starting to happen,
Right.
And so
he's doing it at his own pace. That's a good thing. He's doing it at his own pace. He knows when he's, but I mean, it is very slow, but I mean, he knows I guess he knows when he's ready. So he doesn't want to be a bomb. He doesn't want to be this. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it. Oh, need a little break. Yep. I'm going to do it. Eventually, he's getting there.
How does he handle his like behavioral problems like when he's at school or at work or anything,
Okay, so luckily in my California, we have what's called the regional centers, and they are like resources for adults with special needs. And they helped him find this job, and it's called VIP is the company. It's current regional, but then they source out this VIP place who help him get a job at a warehouse is what he started at Nestle, which is like he was like boxing up stuff and wrapping pallets and things like that. And he has to use his brain and stack according to the whatever. And a lot of the kids that were working with him were like, couldn't figure things out. They called Parker the brain. They're like, let the brain figure it out, And so Parker would go in there and he'd, do it all up and everything. But then I was making him go to school right out of high school. I was making him do college classes, and he was getting A's and B's. He had a couple withdrawals, and then he had one F because he doesn't test very well in this class. He went all the way to the end. He still got an F because it was only test scores that he graded on, even though he did all the homework. It was like, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to be in school, and he felt like he was being forced. And so now he has chosen to go back to school. He starts in a week, and he has chosen, he's going to go for engineering, and he has chosen to go back to, he's chosen to go back to school on his own. And he says because of this, he believes he's going to succeed, because before he felt like he was being forced.
Okay.
And now
I love that for him.
Yeah.
Now, will he have assistance when he's in school?
Yeah. So I was going to get to that. So,
like some type of respite?
Well, we never did sign him up for disabled students, because you can in the college system sign him up as a disabled student so that he can have accommodations. Exactly. And we never did because he's so smart. He thought I don't need it. Well, they put him on, and I paid for all of his schooling. Like I just paid cash for all the classes that he's taken. He's now considered like a sophomore, so he's taken quite a bit, and or junior, I don't know. But then they said that they're putting him on, because now I'm going to make him pay for it himself. So he wanted to get financial aid. And now that you're 25, you can actually get grants and stuff. Before they went off my income and I made too much. And so now he can, they put him on financial like probation or something because he got a failing grade on his last time, and that he withdrew too quickly or something out of another class or something. Okay. And so even though his grade point average wasn't below the rate, it was still above a 2.0. They said, no, you can't. Yeah, he can't get financial aid. So we've been jumping through hoops. I had to get a note from his doctor stating all the things that he's on medication and stuff. So, but what he's being treated for. I pulled up his old IEPs. We tried to get him now as a disabled student through the college so that he can have accommodations. For testing, he can have notes and he can have some other things.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
different testing spots. Yeah.
And so now that's kind of all in the works. We're still kind of like, it's up in the air. We don't really know if the financial aid is approved yet. And he has an appointment in September for the disabled student. But yesterday they said, this is why I said I was looking at his grades yesterday, is because yesterday they asked for his old IEP, and Parker's like, it's been like, he's 25. That was like he was 18.
Yeah.
Or 16 or 17. And I was like, well, Parker, I'm a good mommy. So I opened up a file and I said, here you go. Because I always kept a hard copy of their IEPs. And I'm like, so now you're going to go to that meeting. You're going to have everything you need. So, and then yesterday we drove around and got him his doctor's note and all the things. So hopefully all of that's going to work out for him. It's funny because, the kids, he's seeing now the little legwork that has to go into when you have special needs. There's a lot that the parent, or now he will have to take care of on his own moving forward. And it's a lot of work. And he's starting to look like, dang, like you've had to do that this whole time. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
I'm assuming you do all of this work for your daughter also. Is she by the state or by the federal government? Is she a disabled person?
We tried. I don't know if maybe I'm doing it wrong, because she's only 16 still, but when she was 2 and she had her cerebral palsy, a diagnosis when she just got it, I applied for, and I wasn't making very much back then as much as I am now. My husband, not me, my husband makes money. I don't make very much, but we filed for Social Security for her.
Yeah. SSDI.
Yeah.
Or SSI actually.
Yeah. You know what they did? The lady on the phone, she asked me a bunch of questions and I told her, and then she asked me what car I drove and I told her, and she asked me what my bills were and blah, blah, blah. And after I told her, she laughed and she hung up on me.
What?
Mm-hmm.
So
yep. And then 2 weeks later, I got a denial letter in the mail. And it says that we don't qualify for her.
All right. Well, my one piece of advice would go back and apply for SSI again. She's 16 years old. It seems as though she has a lot of needs and she needs to be labeled as permanently disabled.
Yeah, I figured that like when she turned 18, I thought I was just going to get a conservatorship for her because like this is a girl that, like I was telling her, she still plays with Barbies. Like she's still playing with dolls and believes in Santa, you know, and I go Piper, her name's Piper. And I said, are you going to want to drive one day? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, my son and I looked at each other and we're like, no, never. She cries if you ask her to like, I don't know, go put on shoes or something. And she'll just break down and like, you know, it's just, she just doesn't have it to, she's just not somebody that can do that.
Like she's probably emotionally and mentally delayed.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever she has aged into right now, like my son is at least 2 years emotionally and mentally delayed.
Yeah.
From when, you know, when he was 3, they said he was probably at about a year and a half.
Yeah. That's like Piper. Her 11p point, whatever it is, 16p dot 11.2 is considered an intellectual disability is what it's called. And then 90% of those children that have it have autism. And I was told that Piper doesn't have autism because I would always ask. Now she does this. She flaps her arms a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And she has done that since she was a baby, like when she was a baby. And they just said it was like a tick or something. But my daughter will look you in the eye and she's very social and she's got a lot of things that would say maybe not. But that's the whole thing about her intellectual disability. It's a smattering of this and that and this and that. And the doctor said she also has autism just like that. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little of this, a little of that. It's just so different than every child with autism has it in a special and a different way. And they're no two alike almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why they say a spectrum, because they can go, you know, like over here and over there, you know? And so, and that's where we're at. Now, it's weird because I didn't have that growing up in my family history. I don't think anybody had autism when I was younger. Like I didn't know not one person in high school or any of that stuff. And I think that whatever our environment has done to us growing up, whether it be the foods we're eating or whatever, like I'm not against vaccines. Like I give all my kids their vaccines, but who knows what they're doing to us, has created 3 children in my family with special needs, all 3 of them. I didn't miss a beat on any one of them. And it's a lot of work and I don't know it's hard to navigate in the beginning. So parents out there that are listening, if your child is in the beginning of it, they're about 8 years old and they're starting an IEP, you can now, let me just tell you, when you go into your first IEP meeting, it's a little scary. There's like 10 professional people in there and it's just you. And if you can get your husband to come with you, then great. But then he's sitting there like a bump on the log going, whatever you say.
My mother was with me for mine.
Yeah. But as a mother, you're thinking not whatever they say, honey, it's whatever I want for our kid in addition to whatever they say, because you are essentially we're in charge of our children's education, not them. We're in charge. Okay. They help, they're the resource that we use, but they are not in charge of our kids. It's us. We're in charge. And when you go there, it's daunting, it's scary, and you might go through a few of them before you realize that you can do them on Zoom now.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it on Zoom, it's less intimidating. You're in your own environment. You can have water where you don't feel weird to drink it in front of people.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different vibe. And you can even do it without showing your face, and they can just say, I'm listening. I know you can't see me, but although I show my face, but do it via Zoom now. If you can do it that way, because sometimes you'll agree to things in person that maybe you might not if you're doing it in a more comfortable environment for yourself.
Yeah.
And I just putting that out there for people. And I wanted them to know that, like, I will never go into a meeting because it's almost like them against you. And then you feel like you're wasting their time because you're there asking so many questions and you're talking too long, and they feel like they're pushing you into a time constraint. Anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'm just saying it's a lot.
No, but it's good though. It's good though to ask questions, because I had a friend that her children were autistic, and I was like, the school has resources. Your kids go to an amazing school, because obviously my kids went there. And she's like, oh, I don't know. They're fine. It runs in the family. And I'm like, no, really, they will help you.
Use the resources.
They got the resources. And I'm like, don't be afraid. And, cause her kid wasn't doing his schoolwork. It was a mess. Like, it was a mess. And finally she's like, okay, I guess I'll go. And she's just like, she came home and she's like, they've given me all of this stuff I have to do. And I'm like, yeah, they need you to, it's parent homework that they kind of need you to help them out, like what goes on at home. And, they can't help you. It's just like, I mean, she was a lovely lady, but she was at a loss. She didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, honestly, because they moved away. I don't know if her kids ever truly got the help that they truly needed, but
it takes a lot of work and research. And now we have a computer where you can find things and find information, find experts, find out things on your own, come to the meeting with your own documentation and, take their advice as suggestions. And because like what I said was, I said this, I go, my daughter gets overwhelmed when you give her multiplication on a page and there's 50 problems. I go, can you fold the page? Okay. And let her start on the top part. And I go, only grade her on the ones that she attempts. And so basically, if there's 20 there and she only tries 14, then you grade her how many out of 14. And that's the grade that you should give her. Because it's overwhelming when these kids have like some smarties can get through it and no problem. Like my son could do it, but not my daughter. And she has handwriting, she has cerebral palsy, so she can't grip a pencil like regular people. And and so she's going to go a lot slower than other people. And her brain is a lot, she can get there. It just takes her a little bit longer. And so they were doing whatever, and they took my suggestion and they rolled with it. And that's how they graded her from there on out in math.
Yeah. But she's entitled to modifications, and your school should have known that. So instead of 50 questions, she only should have been given 20.
Right.
And it should have been maybe 4 on a page. Like all those modifications she's entitled to.
Right. Well, that's why I said only grade her on the one she tries. Yeah. And the one she doesn't try, it's just let her skip those. Anyways, had I known that she was going to be where she's at right now, she's in high school and she is in a special needs class. She will not graduate with a diploma, but with a certificate of completion. Mm-hmm. She's right now she's going to start first period and then they're going to send her to this place where they start working on
life skills and vocational skills, work skills. Yep.
So she's going to learn to do retail and then graphic design this year. Wow. And then I'm like, teach her to type because she could be a secretary or something, like for the county or the city where they have good benefits,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But so navigating all of that is like hard when, like you said, your friend or the person that you know, it's almost like you're learning, on the go. And my son was always in trouble. Every day I'd get a phone call from this every day, like his kindergarten, his first day of school. I get a call. No, I didn't get a call. My son comes walking through the door about, I don't know, an after I dropped him off. Gave the teacher the apple, said goodbye. Oh, I'm going to miss you. I cried. He's like, get out of here, Mom. And he goes in kindergarten and then he goes off to the play yard with the teacher and everything. I go home. I live down the street. I have a daycare in my house and my son comes through the door and I'm like, what are you doing home? Like, you're not supposed to be walking home by yourself. He climbed the fence and because he wanted to come home, like his first day of school. And so I'm like, wow. Then they're all, Parker, you can't do that. You're in trouble. And I'm like, are you not in trouble? That's my son climbing your fence to get home. Like, hello, So there was problems every day. Finally, in the 5th grade, I told because what happened was Parker would always ask to call me. I got to ask because he thought I was the boss of everything. So it was like, I got to ask my mom. And so finally I just said, can you just give him a cell phone? Give him a cell phone and then let him walk outside the class and call me. And I would always tell him, Parker, you don't need to ask this to me. You can do this on your own. I go, you can have a good day. Mommy loves you. Get back to class. And he's like, okay, bye. But it helped him. And it really made the teacher goes, wow, I wish we would have thought of that years ago. Like just give him that little bit to help him like regroup and get back to class. They would always say he was out of his chair a lot. And with ADHD, that is normal. Mm-hmm. And, I asked the teacher, she was very mad. She just didn't like this. There's one of the teachers, 4th grade, didn't like him, or 3rd grade. And I said, well, what grade is he getting in class? And she's like, she flips 98. She said, And I'm like, and your problem? I go, he's listening to you. He's just not making it look like he is. I go, he's paying attention. He knows the work, but she didn't like him. And there was some problem. Anyway, I ended up homeschooling him from the 3rd, 4th, and then 5th grade. When I realized the math was getting too hard for me, I pulled him back into school, and I went back. Piper was in the kindergarten or preschool at the time, and I decided to go back to school myself. And I did. I got my bachelor's in business, and then later on during COVID, I got my master's degree. Again, I had downtime at work, so I did it online, got a master's. But what happened was, the reason why I had to go back to school is because I had a business that I built up from when Parker was 2.
Right.
I was a mamapreneur. I started a family daycare, which if anybody out there has room to do a family daycare, do it. There's so much money to be made. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And my school was like, they're going to get a daily report. They're going to have, homework, not homework, but they'd have an art project every day. They'd be fed like they were my own children, and they had fun time. And, it was just a fun time to be in, all the brand new toys that they could ever want to play with. And so, I had word of mouth, and I was constantly full. I ended up building onto the family home another daycare room, had its own entrance and bathroom. And, the kids, it was just constantly full. I had 2 teachers to help me. And finally, I decided to buy one at a preschool at a church. And it wasn't a religious thing. It was just, I had the ability to use their building at the church with their play yard. So I bought this building, not building, but I bought the business. I leased the building, paid for the business. But I really was only buying the ability to lease, because what I got was 2 kids and no toys. So I had to build that preschool up from scratch. Got it rocking and rolling with like 42 kids. I had 8 staff members between the 2 places. And they would sometimes work at my place, sometimes work there. I had to get them licensed at both. And I was just doing really well. I don't know why. I just thought I wanted to go bigger. So I did. What happened was, a neighbor that was behind me, I actually watched his kid a few years back. And he came to me and said, I have a commercial property, and it goes in a corner, like a triangle at the end. And I think that'd be perfect for a building and a triangle kind of play yard, a big play yard, 30,000 square feet play yard, pretty big.
Wow.
And the building was going to be 10,000 square feet. And he was going to build the shell, which was going to be 4.2 million. And I would have to get a loan to pay the fixings of the inside, everything on the inside, and then all the backyard, which the backyard itself was over 100,000 just for the trees and grass, the play structure. I had that squishy, foamy stuff underneath the play structure, like the ropes. I did not spare any expense. It was like a freaking magazine. It was beautiful. And even my school was like, if you ever look up Lakeshore, it's a toy magazine for preschools. Yep. My preschool looked like a Lakeshore magazine when you open the doors.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got a loan. I went online. I figured out how to do an SBA loan, and I got a loan for $700,000. And so that was enough for the inside, the play yard, tons of toys. I bought over $130,000 in toys and computers. We had a computer lab and enough cots for everybody, and just everything we needed. Even a kitchen. I had a gourmet kitchen. It was a really nice kitchen. I was like, damn, I love this kitchen. And it had all the right stuff in there and everything. Had double ovens and beautiful. And I pre-sold everybody on a dirt lot. I would take parents to the dirt lot, and I go, this is where the 4-year-old room is going to be. And this is the preschool room. This is the school agers and the infant room. And they all gave me their first month and their registration fee a year in advance. And I sold 140 students. So we had over 140 kids on the first day I opened my doors.
Good for you.
Can you imagine opening the doors? You're like, good morning, good morning, good morning, good
That's
morning.
amazing.
Wonderful. It was insane. So I had to map out every single minute of the day to make sure.
Sure.
And also, I had 28 staff members. And so you have to map out like their breaks, because by law, they have to have breaks. And so they get 2 of them and a lunch break. And so it was just a lot of like that type of stuff. And it was insane. And when the first day was over and I looked around, I'm like, oh my God, I did it. Like, I freaking built this, and it grew to be a, $1 million business, and it was doing very well. And then in 2008, I'm aging myself, 2008, the economy was going to shit in America. Mm-hmm. Parents were losing their jobs. So like by 2010, it hit Kern County where I live pretty badly. Firefighters were everybody was just losing their job. And what happens when grandma, mom, or dad loses their job?
Yeah, so
now they can watch the kids.
Sure.
You don't need daycare. So we went at the highest, I had 188 students. I went down to like 88 students. I was injecting my own money, and I was struggling, but I just gave birth. So I was also postpartum a little bit. I was like, it was all just coming over. It was just overwhelming. And also I wasn't great I Googled how to do business stuff. I didn't know. Actually, I had somebody else doing my invoicing because I didn't really know how to do that. I was a little nervous to get it wrong and all that. So a friend, he was only charging me like $300 a month to do all of this CPA stuff for me.
Wow.
Because I watched his kids since he was little. In fact, his son just got married. I was like, oh my God. I was like, your son used to wear diapers and only eat chicken nuggets. And now he's getting married.
And eating chicken nuggets.
Yes, he would only eat chicken nuggets and pizza. That was his only two things. It had to be like Schwann's pizza or like Pizza Hut pizza. Couldn't be like anything else. Anyways, right. And so he was helping me as a friend, like taking care of some of the business part of it. And so it was really hard. Had I known what I know now and that I have a business degree, I would have worked out a little bit different maybe path for my business. I probably would still own it today. But the landowner constantly always asking me to buy the business. And my daughter had just been born and she needed open heart surgery. And they said, do not let your child go to your daycare.
Right.
He says, do not let your child, because she could get sick and die, first of all. Do not let her go into anybody's care because they won't know what to do and that she might die. And all these scenarios. So I literally laid in bed. I pulled out my boob and I just laid there with her and fed her. And what the thing is with what she had, it's called tetralogy of Fallot. And what these kids do is, when they eat, they fall asleep. And so then they just don't eat. And so then they wither away and they die from just like not eating or not being able to stay awake. Or they turn blue and then just die. So I was told that she needs to be fed good because we want her strong for the surgery. And so that's what I did. I just laid in bed with her, and my teachers I had two directors and they were really doing a great job. But then the guy kept asking me to buy my business. I think he just pounced at a time when he knew I'd probably say yes, finally. And I did. And I sold it to him, but he never did pay me what he owed me. We were in mediation for a very long time. He took advantage of me and I let him. And finally I gave up. I got paid a little bit, not what I should have. And so I look at it as like my biggest regret in life, but it is what it is. It's c'est la vie. I mean, if I had to give up all of that to keep my daughter healthy, I'd do it all over again.
But it's a lesson learned. And now you can take what you've learned to give to other people that might want to start a business. You've got all of that knowledge that you can give to so many young people. Like I have one of my daughters, she wants to start a business, when she's going to school for math and economics, and she wants to start a business. And so having, that type of knowledge, you could help, little Jenny down the road that might come to you and say, hey, Miss Jessica, I want to start a business. Help, talk to me.
I sometimes think I should just do a podcast just on childcare. Like, let me tell you that, and like, let's break it down. This is what you need to know and blah, blah, blah. Or even if I just do it just to put it out there as knowledge-based information, like do with it what you want. This is how I did it, Yeah,
of course.
I always think that maybe I should, but then again, I would have to break it down, write it out, business plan the whole thing before I'd even get started, which is funny because I didn't do that with this podcast. You know how you make a podcast, people? You go online, you YouTube it, and you write down notes, like what kind of software you might need, what kind of equipment you need. Some say, just start with your phone. And some goes, buy this camera, And it depends on how bougie you want to be. Like I wanted to be a little bougier, so I actually saved for the camera and the equipment and everything. And then you just start.
Yeah.
And you let it run. You let the camera roll. And you don't stop it, okay? And you just edit out the bad parts. Don't keep stopping it, just keep going. And eventually you'll get to the sweet spot.
Kind of like how life rolls sometimes too,
Right.
Yeah.
That's how
I was failing like all the time in life. I constantly made bad choices. And I have some really bad choices that I've made. And I was failing all the time, but then I'd come up to this really high part and I was living on the top part of it. I was like, man, I'm a baller. Like I'm doing so good. And then I would like drop down again and I'd have to work my way back up. And the only way you work your way up out of the depths of like depression and all those other places is, I talk about this in my book. It's called Domination by Determination. You take one step forward and then another and another, and you keep working hard every day and you don't stop until you get to the point that you want to be at. And then you dream a little bit bigger and you go to that spot and you dream a little bit bigger and you keep going. I mean, I have dreams. I'm not going to give up on it. Well, right now my dream is just getting my 401k a little beefed up, but
it's okay to fail, though. It's okay to fail because we all learn, from failing. And I think that's, a problem. I mean, I won't say problem, but I think a lot of people or even young people are afraid to fail because they think if they fail, they're not going to be successful. And like my husband and I, we own our own business, and the amount of times of things that we've wanted to do, like, yes, we're going to make a lot of money. And then we fail. But we don't give up. We never gave up. We just kept going and going. And
but if you didn't try, you wouldn't know.
Exactly. That's what I always say. You got to keep trying because you'll never know if that one thing fits. Like, who was it? Who started the light bulb? His brain just left his name just left my brain. Thank you, Thomas Edison. Like, if you go and research how many times did he have to work on how many times did he attempt to make the light bulb before it worked? I think it was 1,000 or something like that. Right. He failed 1,000 times until he got this.
He knew it was going to work. He just didn't know exactly how to get it to that point, but he didn't stop trying.
Exactly.
Like my dad said, life is nothing but lessons learned. And constantly. His other favorite thing to say was, shoot yourself in the foot. Why are you doing that? Why are you shooting yourself in the foot? And I would constantly do that. And I don't know why I would, I would shoot myself in the foot, make bad choices. And then I'd realize, oh crap, like this is the person I want to be. This is the choices I should be making.
Yeah.
And you can always change. In my book, I talk about I talk about my relationship with God a little bit here and there. And I feel like I'm not a church. I don't go to church, but I don't believe I need to. I believe I have a good relationship with God. He listens to me and I listen to him. I literally listen. Sometimes I see things and I'm like, thank you. Like, you did that for me. I know you did. Or you made it hard for me to open that because you knew if I opened that, this was going to happen. That's right. So I look at things a little bit differently than I ever have because I had some things happen to me when I was younger. I call it my God story. And so, I'll tell you briefly, but it's like one of the funniest stories and it's all true, people. Okay. So after I graduated high school, I was still 17 years old. My birthday was in September. I graduated in June. So I still had a few months before my 18th. And so my parents would not let me move out of the house until I was 18 because I wanted to leave. I already packed up my room. I literally was living out of a box because I just could not wait to leave. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wasn't going to stay in that house. And so, but my brother's throwing parties. My parents were out of town. And my friend's like, let's go, come over to my house and we'll go to my boyfriend's house. And I was like, okay. It was in Utah and I was not California. And so I'm like, okay, let's go. It'll take us 12 hours. We'll get there, whatever the time was or whatever. And I had a Chevy Citation, a 1981 Chevy Citation. And at the time, gas was like $1.06 or something. And so, you can get there or whatever. So we got there. I slept on the couch and she went in the bedroom with her cowboy boyfriend because he lived on a ranch, whatever. And so then the next morning I called my brother and checking in because I did that growing up. He was always like, check in the morning. And so I just told him that I'm checking in, that I'm still with Brandy, that I'll be back tomorrow, whatever, like Sunday. And he's like, you're in trouble. You're not allowed to leave. And I said, he goes, you need to come home right now. And I says, I can't. And he goes, well, why? And I go, cause I'm out of town. And so I'm like trying not to get myself in trouble. And he's like, cause my mom and dad were at a property in the high Sierras. They did have a way to get the call to check on us kids. We didn't have cell phones back then, but they would go to the ranger station, call us, make sure we're all okay. And so my brother, when my mom called, anyways, they were calling the police on me. Call me a runaway when they know I graduated high school and I'm about to move out anyways. You know what I mean? Called me a runaway, called the police, whatever. So I said, Brandy, we got to go home. I'm in trouble. We got to go home. And so we get in the car and we didn't know this at the time, but Brandy was pregnant. And so she just wanted to sleep all the time. So when we got to this freeway area, I'm like, which way do I go? She goes, just go on the 80. And I only saw this one thing that said 80. So I get on the 80, but I go the wrong way. And I'm driving through Idaho. And so I went from Utah to Idaho, totally not going to California. Yeah. And she's in the back seat asleep. And I'm driving like 7-8 hours, maybe 9 hours or something. And we finally are running out of gas. No, we didn't have anything I had a map, I think, but I wasn't using it because she said just stay on the 80. And I was like, okay. And so I'm driving. Finally, we are on, it's middle of nowhere and it is straight desert. And she's been asleep. She won't even come out to say hello. And I'm like, there's no one around. And I'm singing, in the plane, whatever. I'm singing in the car, not paying attention. Finally, I notice I'm freaking hungry and there's no gasoline. And I finally see something far up there. There was nothing for miles and I could see nothing for miles and past that. So I stop at the gas station and I'm thinking, she has some money for gas. No, she had no money. And I had $5 in change in my pocket.
Ooh.
And I was like, because I thought I'd be home by now. And I started to cry because I was like, oh my God, we're not going to get home. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Where am I? I'm lost. I didn't know I was in Idaho. So I get up to the lady and I say, I'm lost. And she said, oh, where are you trying to go? And I said, Marysville, Yuba City in California. And she's like, well, you went the wrong way. And she's like, don't cry. It's okay. We'll figure this out. Sweet, sweet gray old lady, And this filling station, by the way, was an old timey, had those so old. They had the big round things on top.
Yeah.
Like, so freaking cool retro. Like nowadays would be like stolen. Probably people would go out and steal them because they're so cool. And so the door was like a screen, like a old screen door, you open it up and it slams behind you. And I come in and she tells me, well, where are you trying to go? And I told her where I was going. And I said, well, where am I? And she says, well, you're in Eden, Idaho. And I said, Eden, Idaho, where's I go, I have a grandma who lives in Idaho, but I've only been there once. And she's my great grandma. And I've only been to the farm one time. And I don't even know where. I think maybe could be Eden. I don't know. That sounds kind of familiar. I don't know. And she goes, well, honey, what's your grandma's name? And I say, Vineyard is her last name. And my great grandma and grandpa, this is a great grandma and grandpa, by the way. I've only met like once. They live on this farm and they have their own street because their farm house was made in 1901 out of lava rocks and it's a historical landmark.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't tear it down or anything, And so they were given their own street. And so the lady, she looks at me and she comes outside. She comes around the counter. She gives me a side hug and she squeezes me tight. And she walks me over to the door and she opens it up. And she goes, you see that road right there? That road is your grandma's road. That's Vineyard Road right there. She goes, honey, you're just down the street from your grandma's house. And she, in the middle of nowhere, dude. And she and I both looked at each other like the hand of God for damn straight. If there was ever somebody looking out for me, today was the day. I ended up right where I needed to be. Drove down the street, my grandma. I went to the back door. And of course, she landed on everybody's name but mine as she's trying to remember my name. She's, oh, Joey, Dixie, Hillary, Suzanne. No, Grandma, it's Jessica. She's like, I know who you are. She gave us sweet tea and she brought us inside and she gave me money to get home. And she said, she goes, can I call your parents? And I go, yeah. They thought I was running away, but of course I wasn't. But how in the hell did I end up at Grandma's house so far away? Like, it's just insane.
Yes.
And it's so true.
I love that.
It is the craziest story. Things like that happen to me all the time, making bad choices and then God coming in to rescue me because I was a lost little lamb in the middle of nowhere. And when I talk in desert, we're talking straight, no mountains.
Right.
No, nothing, no home.
Yeah.
Not a home off to the side. We're talking nothing.
I'm originally from that neck of the woods, so I know what you mean by desert, but we could talk for hours.
I know I'm so sorry. I totally hijacked your podcast for sure.
You're completely fine.
I didn't even get off with all the good stuff. There's just so much more in my book. That's just crazy. Oh my God.
We could do a part 2 maybe one day. What a piece of advice would you maybe give to somebody, maybe as a special needs mom or just in general, like or wanting to start a business? What piece of advice would you give them?
Well, I did do a business with special needs children. So being a mompreneur is not easy. You got kids at your ankles wanting sippy cups or change the diaper, or they're fighting over the remote control while you're trying to put your stuff together. Trying to do it all. Just give yourself a chance to take a breath.
Yeah.
It's okay to look online to see what other people are doing, to try to maybe garner some ideas from them, write them down and make your own suggestions and putting together your own things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to kind of find your niche and
Yes.
And
sure.
my thing is, when it comes to business, you have to be convinced on how to sell it yourself, and you have to be able to sell it over the phone. One thing about my preschools, the reason why we were always full is because even at the other schools, I would have them redirect calls to my phone, and I was the one that was selling the preschool to the potential parents so that I would set up times for them to come visit the school.
Right.
And you have to take it into your own hands to be the person that's going to sell your school, because some kid that you're paying minimum wage won't put all the emphasis and the importance on your business to the people that you're trying to bring in. So just saying.
Yeah.
But always be selling. That's, number one thing. And don't forget to do social media. Nowadays, that is so big.
Yeah.
I did not want to do TikTok for the longest time, but now I've got like 18,300 followers. I'm getting bigger. And it just takes a lot of patience and work. And if you can grow it organically, that's how you're going to get, that's how you're going to, build followers and a following for your business. So make sure you continue to use social media, and don't forget to try AI. I do AI for all my podcast stuff. I put it for my packages or people that are coming onto my podcast. I use AI to follow to create me questions. Don't be afraid to use that. And always domination by determination. Put one foot forward and then another, and keep working. And you work hard every day. You should be tuckered. By the time you go to sleep, you should want to go to sleep after a hard day's work. Just saying.
There
Wonderful.
we go. Love
Thank
that.
you so much, Jessica.
Thank you so much.
Your stories are wonderful.
I will link all of your social medias below. Do you have a website or anything like that, or just social medias?
No, justsaying.net.
Okay.
And you go there and it'll have all my icons. So all my social media icons and my podcast information. You can get my podcast anywhere. My book is Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere you can get a book, most likely.
Okay.
And it's a good book. It's easy to read by the pool, or when your kids are playing soccer, or, at your in-laws when you really don't want to be there. It's a good book to read. And it's funny. There's so many more stories in there that I haven't even told you about, but that are interesting. And
we want them to read. We want them to buy your book. So we don't want you to tell everybody, because then they won't buy your book. We want them to
buy only like 2 or 3 stories. There's like freaking so many in there that I can't even go through them all. It's so many. I'm serious.
Well, I'm good. You know what? I'm glad. I'm glad that, the book is doing well and people are reading it, and you were able to share all of your experiences.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I truly appreciate you coming on, and I will get this out sometime next week.
I just appreciate you guys. Sorry I took so long to get to the point. Sometimes it's hard because the stories are just incredibly crazy, and there's so many more. I only told you like a couple, but the book does not even, those are only the few of them. There's just so many more.
The stories you said were meaningful and definitely going to resonate with people. So that's, you told them what, the most important ones. They're going to definitely help people out there. So thank you so very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to see you. Let's hold on.